Good morning and welcome. Didn't realise the camera was already rolling here, and welcome to one and all watching. You were looking at my bald head, I'd say, for a period of time without warning, so apologies about that, but welcome to Radio Maria Ireland. Thanks for your company today. It's Chatechesis, of course, with Father Eamonn, and nice to have your company. The 20th of July it is. Amazing how the time seems to march on and slip past us without us even knowing, and without us being aware, maybe perhaps too. So, not to worry, we'll keep going regardless. Time and tide wait for no man, as the expression goes. So, please do get in touch with us. Please do connect in with us. Please do share and like and follow and all those good things. The numbers, as always, to give a call: 014123456, 014123456. Please do text as well on WhatsApp on 089 467 2000, 089 467 2000 with a +353 in front of that too, if you're calling from the north or outside of the country as well. So looking forward to having Catherine Wiley join us a little bit later on, please God, from the Grandparents Association, to share with us the great celebration indeed of grandparents and the elderly this coming Sunday, and the pilgrimage to Knock that is forthcoming as well. So that'll be a nice little conversation to share together. We have a saint today, Saint Apollinarius. Have I pronounced that right? Apollinarius. Very little on him. The date on him is even unknown. The first bishop of Ravenna and a martyr. It tells me in my little book here, nothing is known of his life and actions. The best literary witness to his existence being from St. Peter Chrysologus. His late and unreliable account says that St. Apollinarius was a native of Antioch and a disciple of St. Peter. So post-apostolic times, is that right? Or is there a name? There's a name for that generation after the apostles that he would have lived. And he was 4 times expelled from his see as a bishop, and in the end was stoned by a mob, according to that story. So his best memories are the beautiful churches in Ravenna dedicated to his memory, with the fine mosaic representing him as a shepherd of his flock. So that's as much as my little book tells me. Seems not to be a whole lot about him. There seems to be a second Apollinarius there too, unless I'm mistaken here as well. And again, it seems to be no, that's the 8th of January is his feast day. This one's the 23rd of July. Yeah. So there we are. Even for all the good, this lovely book I'm using, the Oxford Dictionary of Saints, is actually very helpful. I like his sort of style and his slightly critical approach. So he sort of takes things handy and tries to give a balanced perspective on the lives of the saints. And sure, listen, with Google and all these things at our fingertip now, we have no excuse for not learning about the lives of the saints in great detail. Wikipedia and good Catholic websites as well are useful points of reference. So, what day is today? Today is Wednesday again, just anticipating. I mentioned yesterday just the plethora of wonderful visitors we had at the weekend. Mentioned that yesterday, and the events that are forthcoming as well. We're looking forward to heading to Terranure and to Temple Oak, please God, this coming weekend, and doing a bit of promotion at the churches there. We are very much looking forward to our walking tour of the 5 inner city, or is it 6? 1, 2, 3. It's 5 inner city churches of Dublin that we've just put on our. You could put more, of course, but to put on our walking tour. So that's tomorrow week, starting with 10 o'clock in Sean McDermott Street. If you'd like to join our little walking tour, you want to be fit and well and able for a 10-15 minute walk in between the 5 churches. And it'll go on into the afternoon. We'll pause for a little bit of a break, a bit of lunch as well, in order not to clash with the lunchtime masses in the various inner city churches. But all of them equally beautiful, equally ornate, and equally popular in many ways by way of visitors. Our Lady of Lourdes in Sean McDermott Street, the shrine, of course, of Venerable Matt Talbot. And that's our opening church in the end. Then the Whitefriars Street, the Carmelites there have the shrine, a little relic and shrine in honour of St. Valentine. So a nice way to bookend our little walking to our latest pilgrimage. So thanks to Dermot McGrath organising that. If you haven't seen them yet, and if you have access to Facebook, William Chuk was our chief cameraman there, and he does a lot of work in processing and editing all the photographs that he takes, and a fine selection of photographs posted up on our Facebook page there for you to look at. We should try and put these things maybe on our website as well for you, because not everybody's on Facebook. It's not the most popular at times, at any rate, of social media notice boards, because that's all these things really are. So that nice to see all of those photographs up on our Facebook page, and you can share virtually in our pilgrimage to Glendalough. And more than that too, it's nice to see that Raffaele Galati keeps an eye on our Facebook page, and he shares those posts and reposts them on the World Family of Radio Maria Facebook page that he has set up, Radio Maria in the World. And that's a nice little Facebook page to visit every now and again, and to like and love and share the photos, because they're representations there and images from the various other Facebook pages of Radio Maria stations all around the world. And you get a real cross-section, a real summary of the best of photos and posts and activities in Radio Maria in the world, throughout the world. And so it's lovely to feature the best of Irish Christian heritage there, our Catholic faith deeply rooted here, with our friends in the World Family of Radio Maria through that Facebook page, because some beautiful pictures, and in fairness to William, he has a great eye for a photograph, so some beautiful pictures there from Lough Derg, and indeed great possibilities for next year's calendar for the month of July. We were struggling a bit to piece together a good cross-section of photographs for this year's calendar. We did okay, I think, in the end. And we had some nice group photos that we took. So we've been busy taking a few other group shots. There was one or two nice ones there from Glendalough, I think, which would merit a place in next year's calendar. If it is that you haven't access to Facebook or any of these other means, watch out for them, please God, on a future edition of our Radio Maria calendar. So that certainly will be good. Interesting little piece of news here from the Catholic News Agency. A lady who during the pandemic in Liverpool in England in July in February of 21, she was arrested for walking and praying outside an abortion clinic in Liverpool, and effectively on her own, I think, and minding her own business, but seeking to make some little reparation. And it shows how far things have gone, that, it's not even possible to sort of carry a rosary and pray in public without it being... and the officer, I think, was a little bit over the top. He said it wasn't a reasonable excuse to be walking and praying. And of course, the pandemic or lockdowns or whatever may have been going on at the time, being used again as and it shows a certain bias against pro-life activity and unfair. So it was brought to court, and it was reversed, of course, and the poor woman was 76-year-old grandmother at that, just taken through the coals, as it were, in terms of a court case there, and just the trauma of being arrested for bearing witness to life. And again, not doing anything that I'm sure that would have constituted, anything by way of disturbing the peace, or anything, for the very opposite, in fact. And apparently, the Merseyside police were forced to apologise after erroneously claiming on a billboard, as part of a billboard, that being offensive is an offence. This is the latest thing to do with, reporting hate crimes. And they had to admit in the end that being offensive is not itself an offence. Breaking the law is, and if something is genuinely, a hate crime, it could be, properly interpreted that way. So it's just interesting, the kind of groupthink and the way our minds have been sort of remolded and reshaped and redirected into false ways of thinking, and in the name of what is ostensibly good. You see, this is the thing. This is where the confusion enters in. that it's right, indeed, that people should not seek to cause others offence, absolutely. But then how do you begin to measure that if it is you're proclaiming the gospel or preaching the truth? Because the Lord himself caused offence, didn't he, in the way he spoke? And he was very forthright, and it led ultimately to his crucifixion and death. They simply rejected and refused and were not interested in hearing what he had to say. And is this the path we're beginning to travel now? Are we seeing this happen? So it's sad to read of these things, but at any rate, the charges were dropped against this lady, Rosa, after a long and exhausting battle for justice. So good to see indeed that she was vindicated in the end. And even in a way, if she wasn't, if peacefully praying and protesting and lamenting this great evil would still be, seems to me, a very important thing to do. Such is the nature of the times we're in, for goodness sake. That was just a news item there from Catholic News Agency. So well done to that lovely grandmother for upholding peacefully and prayerfully the sanctity of human life. Now we're going to have a little chat, please God, with Catherine Wiley, and she is representative, of course, the Catholic Grandparents Association. So do please stay with us. We're going to pause for a little musical interlude just so we can make contact with Catherine, and we'll return very shortly with that conversation. So please do stay with us. Please do text, email, do drop a comment even on our social media as well, and we'd like to hear from you as part of the conversation. So back after this little break.
There's a new love in my life, not a lover, not your wife, but I know this truly is a love affair. The new apple of my eye is my daughter's little boy, and my world's a brighter place because he's there. I love to watch him run and play. He makes the most of every day in a world of secret friends that he's just found, where dragons wander free and where pirates save the seas, where Spider-Man and Batman call her. He's a pint-sized action man, and he's always got a plan. He only kills the baddies if they're really bad. Ooh. But in my heart I sang the day he let me join his gang, and that first time that I heard him say, "Granddad."
Brendan Shine there, grandchild, very appropriate. Thomas picked that one out for us there, and great to have that appropriate piece of music for this moment now. And Catherine Wiley is kindly joining me. She's the founder of the Catholic Grandparents Association. She's been on Radio Maria with us before, and delighted to welcome you, Catherine. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Father Eamonn. It's lovely to be with you. How are you?
Very good, and delighted to have you with us, Catherine. So there's a pilgrimage to Knock this Sunday, and we're celebrating the Second World Day for grandparents and the elderly.
There's more than a pilgrimage to Knock this Sunday, Father Eamonn. It's the pilgrimage to Knock this Sunday.
Good.
It's the very, 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 very special pilgrimage for grandparents.
Marvellous to hear, and it's a very special, as you say, in that the role of grandparents today is so important, and the elderly too. I like that it's not just grandparents we have in mind, but the wisdom and the experience and perhaps the suffering that our older generation have experienced and that they can pass on to the coming generation is without doubt, beyond price, beyond value. And Pope Francis has at length been using his catechesis there on Wednesdays to teach us about valuing the elderly and grandparents. Catherine. Have I lost you, Catherine? I'm not hearing you coming through to me.
Father Eamonn, there's a lot of background noise, so I'm just waiting for you to tell me when to talk.
Great. I'm trying to prompt you here a little bit. Are you able to hear me now, Catherine? Just check with you.
Yeah, no, I can hear you perfectly, Father.
You can hear me now.
Thank you.
Good. Yes. So I just mentioned Pope Francis's catechesis as well on the elderly. He's been very fond of our older generation and encouraging us indeed to support and to listen and to accompany our elderly.
Well, for the last, I think, for over a year now, every Wednesday his catechesis has centered around grandparents and the elderly and the needs of the elderly. I mean, I honestly think that Pope Francis has become the parish priest of the world, Father Eamonn. He's so in touch with humanity. He's so in touch with our needs. And, he often says, because he's near that age himself, but it's much, much more than that. I think even the theme that he's given, in old age, we still bear fruit. I mean, you have to ask yourself, if you're a grandmother of 75, I'm 75, what does that fruit still mean? What does our fruit at our age represent? And if you look at some of the words that Pope Francis uses, I mean, at the World Meeting of Families, at the end there, he gave a beautiful mandate to grandparents. He said, let them be the artisans of a revolution of tenderness. Well, I don't think I've ever heard such beautiful words, but when you think about them, I mean, they sound very grand, the artisans of a revolution of tenderness. It's for me, it conjures up so many other things he said about grandparents, like that loving gaze. No matter what stage of your life you're at, we all know what a loving gaze means. And I have so often in my life seen grandparents and grandfathers gaze at their children in absolute love and wonder. I mean, we've all experienced the touch of a grandparent just touching us, just being there, just giving us a wink at the right time, just being able to walk with us when sometimes we've been unable to talk because we've been in such distress. So, the theme he has chosen, in old age we still bear fruit. It really fills me with awe and wonder, because that fruit that he's talking about, for us, we don't even have to talk or speak. We have to look and touch and feel and listen and see. And if only I had thought of that much earlier in my life, I'd have got myself out of a lot of trouble. Sure. But the words are so beautiful. And the Sunday coming up in Knock,
our link seems to have...
and this Sunday, can you hear me, Father?
Yes, the link just dropped a little bit. Keep going, Catherine. Thank you.
All right, okay, but this Sunday coming up in Knock, I mean, it's a pilgrimage, but we're celebrating a first, really, because it's the first time that the grandparents in Ireland will get together pre-COVID to celebrate the grandparents' pilgrimage and to celebrate and to pray for themselves, because grandparents, above anybody else, know that a pilgrimage is a search. It's a journey in ourselves for the meaning of truth and value and sense in life, and it's a place to give thanks and to ask for favors and to just be with God. And I think, although we've been very lucky with technology, sitting at home on the sofa, watching Mass and attending pilgrimages has not been remotely the same. So I honestly feel that this Sunday is, and because it's the World Day for Grandparents and because it's the Grandparents' Pilgrimage, I think it's a real call. I think it's a real call to grandparents to reunite, to rejoin, to re-pray, to show the way, to light the light. I feel a bit like when I first started the Catholic Grandparents Association nearly 25 years ago, when I felt I was failing as a grandmother because my children were baptizing my grandchildren and things were going wrong in the family. I feel the same way again. And I remember always thinking, if I pray and if I hope, it'll all work out. At least I'm doing my best. And I think we need to put our best foot forward again and do our best.
Mm.
So I can't believe that our Holy Father, after we're begging with him for 80 years, to have granted us a World Day for grandparents and the elderly. And it was the grandparents of Ireland, and it was here that project, that initiative, that request was initiated and finally established. And I really want the grandparents of Ireland to know that, because we love our grandparents and we love our great-grandparents and our great-aunts and all the people who came before us, but we don't often get a chance to show our appreciation. And I think this is one way, by our perseverance and persistence and prayer, we managed to get this. And I think it's our eternal pillar in the eternal church for our grandchildren.
Sure, wonderful. And as you mentioned, indeed, the 2 years of restrictions and lockdown, that, didn't do much favours, I don't think, except that maybe in retrospect that we appreciate all the more the value of our elderly and our grandparents particularly, and the place they have in the family, and the importance for companionship and fellowship and for being together. So I do hope, if nothing else, the past couple of years has taught us maybe to grow closer to our grandparents and to deepen those connections.
Father Eamonn, I couldn't agree with you more. And also, if any of us who go to daily Mass, or who try and go to daily Mass, the community was always made up of what I might call the grey-haired brigade. Mm-hmm. And that was their community, that's their family, where they get together in the morning, they see each other, they pray together. It's the beginning of their day, it's the structure of their life, it's their purpose. And that was taken away. And that leaves a hole, and that takes a bit of time to get back into, and to get the confidence to go back into, and to get the drive. And a lot of people have been left a bit weakened, by illness and by COVID. And so they need something now. And I think that great impetus of having a World Day given to us, and to tell us that we still bear fruit, and to try and show us what the fruit of our life is. I think we need to look at it and think about it, and I think it's just so important now, because it really is a critical time for our young people, to try and keep them on the straight and narrow, and try and let them know that we're always there and we're always doing our best and we don't change. Yes. We're like Jesus in that way. We're persistent and consistent, and we have our own ways, but they're the right ways, and we want to show them the way. And
Sure, and
yes.
have lived through some difficult years, and have helped them to understand the meaning of sacrifice as well. That kind of example, as you say, it doesn't always or necessarily have to use words. Just the very fidelity of older couples, say in married life, the witness of that is very powerful to children, but also to grandchildren, and the security that brings. And there's a kind of point of reference that they might have in looking to grandparents that the world can't give. The world is just so fickle and so changeable, and mood swings and fashions and ideas and ideologies. Grandparents give a kind of a sense of direction, hopefully, and purpose and meaning to a new coming generation.
Well, Father, it's very true what you say, and I think that the more we can. I really admire Pope Francis. As I said, I do think he's become the parish priest of the world, because he has made himself so approachable and so available. And even through moving things away from Rome, putting everything into our local parishes at hybrid level, so we can celebrate these things ourselves, gives us a lot of power over what we can do as well in our families and in our parishes and in our churches. And the synodal pathway, and I must say it took me a long while to get my head and my tongue round synodal, but I know now that it means accompanying.
Sure. Okay, the signal mightn't be working so well for us, Catherine, there, but indeed...
Oh, Father Eamonn, don't worry. Listen, I've had many schizophrenic conversations before where we're talking to 2 or 3 people, so it's absolutely fine. It just goes to show we can manage no matter what happens.
We can. And listen, 'tis marvellous actually to have the event. This is just one comment I was going to make as well. In Knock, I was at a gathering some time ago there, and it was just lovely hearing confessions from people who hadn't been to church since the beginning of the pandemic and were finding their way back again. And I think you said this too, that it's a lovely opportunity to, Get yourself organised, get things together, get somebody to bring you if necessary, and come along to Knock and to refresh and begin again. If it is that you've been away or you've been distanced from the church for all those reasons, here's an opportunity to reconnect again. And you've touched on the very important social element of our faith that brings us together and just reinforces the gift of faith that we share. And, sharing our stories maybe as grandparents too might give a bit of strength and comfort to those who, like you, Catherine, trying to witness to the faith when we see our children and grandchildren drifting away from what we value so much,
But I think, Father Eamonn, you're so right. It's an ideal opportunity to refresh and to reconnect and to remind ourselves what it's like when we are together. There's nothing in the world like that feeling when you're together and you're all singing from the same hymn sheet, you're all believing in the same God, you're all praying for the same things, you're such a part of each other, and you share each other's joys and sorrows and the prayers. Whatever happens, whether you're there or whether you're not there, pray, pray, pray. And
no, we've lost you again there, Catherine.
I hope that young lad doesn't give up his day job, Father Eamonn.
Right. Anyway, Catherine, you're doing marvellous work, and we appreciate very much the way you've led the Catholic Grandparents Association on for so many years, and it has won the heart of Pope Francis, who himself, as an elderly pope, as you say, is very pastoral and accompanying us, his children, if you like, his spiritual children and spiritual grandchildren, and pointing us in the right direction as well. So we'll be tuning in here on Radio Maria to Knock as we do every Sunday, but we'll be connected in with you, Catherine, for this coming Sunday, and we pray every blessing upon all your great work.
Father Eamonn, and God bless you and all your great work. And God bless all the young technicians who are learning from you and learning the way and showing the way. And one day they'll be in your spot doing what you're doing and masterful at it. So tell them not to worry.
And even better than me at it. So that'd be fine
God
too.
bless you, Father Eamonn, and thank you, everybody.
Good. God bless Catherine.
Everybody.
Thank you
See
so
you on
much.
Sunday, please God.
Please God. Thank you, Catherine. Well done.
See you on Sunday.
Bye-bye for
Bye.
now.
Bye.
God bless you. So now, very good. Our sincere thanks to Catherine Wiley there. She's leading up there the Catholic Grandparents Association, celebrating this coming Sunday, Grandparents Day for Grandparents and the Elderly. So do, please, if you can, travel to Knock, by all means do. And Archbishop Francis Duffy will be there as the new Archbishop, of course, of Tuam, and who is the patron locally here in Ireland of the Catholic Grandparents Association. And he will be there for Holy Mass at 3. As usual in Knock, there will be anointing of the sick as well at 2:30, and an opportunity for confession. So if you're able to get there a little bit early, the queues might be substantial, but pack a lunch, get yourself organised and head along. It's a great opportunity to be refreshed again in your faith and to find the Lord's healing. So thanks to Catherine and all the great work that's going on there. And just that theme as well, in old age they will still bear fruit. That's from one of the Psalms. And that's the sign of the blessing of the Lord, that despite the passing of years, fruit continues to be born. 30, 60, 100-fold was the gospel this morning. And we don't have to measure the quantity of fruit. The fact that that fruit is being born is really the important thing. God doesn't look to the amount so much as indeed the quality. And that we are still seeking to grow, still seeking that journey, that path on the way to holiness and to communion. And never to underestimate the power and the blessing that grandparents bring into the home by way of sowing seeds of peace, of connecting with grandchildren in a way that parents may not quite be able to connect. As we well know, indeed, the dynamic for children is rebellion, especially during teenage years, towards parents. And then, with God's help and with a bit of wisdom and a bit of worldly learning, that children come to understand and appreciate the gift of their parents into their old age. And then as they become grandparents, again with God's help, they appreciate even more the value of the lessons they learned as children. And so life goes around. This is the Lord's way of drawing us into communion with his life-giving love as a trinity of persons giving and sharing in life and in love. And maybe an opportunity too for children and grandchildren to lift up their prayers on behalf of deceased grandparents, or maybe deceased uncles or aunts for that matter, who remained unmarried for maybe one good reason or another, and yet part of the family too, and in their age and in their capacity, coming to support nieces and nephews in the same way. So an opportunity maybe too for those who are younger and who have affection towards grandparents, or maybe those who never knew grandparents. The only grandparent I remember would be one grandmother. My grandparents would have passed away, or I suppose they would, yeah, but before I came of any age to ever know them. So one grandmother lived at home with us, and my mother made tremendous sacrifices to care for her. And we saw all that at work as young children, but I was still very young when she died. And she eventually needed extra care, had to be admitted to a community hospital for care. So she wasn't really that long at home with us, but it did put quite a strain, I know, on my mum and her caring for her mother-in-law, as well as a growing family too. So huge sacrifices we don't really appreciate, as perhaps you can realise until later years, just the tremendous sacrifices that our parents and grandparents alike make, and something for us to give expression to be thankful for, and to try to reciprocate in some way. That fourth commandment, I think, isn't there for no reason. Honour your father and mother. And there's no doubt but that applies not just to parents, but to extended family too. That there is a duty in kind to those who have given us birth and given us life in the physical sense. God, of course, the giver of life too. And so hence a duty and responsibility there as well. That, again, it's beyond our capacity, and a great mystery in its own right, but it does suggest a close bond that's forged right from the beginning, and one that demands, at least in justice, and I suppose in charity too, that we respond accordingly. Now, it may be the case that we may not have had such a strong or loving relationship with our parents, or grandparents for that matter, but I think, leaving that aside, there is a certain duty nonetheless to pray for them. We might not be in good communication at times, or close the way we might like to be, but I think our faith teaches us something a little different, that at least in the sense of fulfilling a duty in charity and in justice, we can attempt something by way of outreach. And if it is they have passed before us, we can now at least extend the hand of charity by way of prayer on their behalf, and thanksgiving on their behalf, and leaving aside any hurts or wounds or any transgressions or inadequacies, omissions that may have taken place. Again, who are we to judge? Who are we to read circumstances, if it is indeed that we even, awful thought that it might be, those who may have been brought up in an abusive home. And that's very sad too, and that's very lamentable. And yet, we can't somehow efface the reality of our relationship with our parents, our siblings in that regard too. And that the healthy way forward in trying to cope maybe with some of those memories, or indeed if it is that it wasn't particularly oppressive, there may well have been mistakes made, or again offences committed through human weakness, or who knows. And that's probably the case in every home or every relationship. But that we bring that before the Lord, and again the duty and I suppose the demands of the fourth commandment suggest that we let that go. We seek to forgive. We seek to heal the memories. These prayers that people pray, and occasions of gatherings where they come together for the healing of the family tree. Again, a trip to Knock like this on a day for grandparents and the elderly might be a way, in your own personal way, interiorly, to pray and look to healing for the family tree. And again, the only creative way and constructive way forward is to seek forgiveness, to ask forgiveness, and to forgive, to let go any hurts or wounds, or any, again, memories that we'd rather not have, maybe, of relationships in the home, with parents, with grandparents, as the case may be. And I have this sort of thought in my own mind that in the letting of those things go, we of course find great healing in that. We find, we're not as pent up or perhaps resentful or feeling self-pity as much. And I think it maybe releases then those who have offended us from a certain bondage too. I like to think that might be the case in purgatory, that my sins that have caused such offence to others are grievous and demand grace, and that I've asked mercy and forgiveness for, but there may be a woundedness or a wound there that in need of healing. And so in my, I suppose, sense of following Christ in loving those who have hurt me, or forgiving those who persecute or hate or who've wounded, that there's release for that then in the holy souls in purgatory. That part of the purgation is this purification of wounds and woundedness and of selfishness, and that we can help that along by letting go ourselves and handing it over to God. You might notice that I bring that into the prayer of the faithful sometimes at Mass. And I think this is part of what love of enemies is about. It's about, yes, I have been wounded, yes, I have been hurt, and yes, I carry with me the burden and maybe the resentment, the sense of hatred or want of revenge, but that afflicts me more than it afflicts others. And if I give expression to that then with a kind of passive aggression or active aggression because I'm wounded, and I lash out at others, I'm only passing on that wound and that hurt to others. Whereas if I can, by God's grace and with the help of His mercy, let that go and be delivered of that hurt or that wound or that hatred or that anger or that bitterness or resentment which can so easily take hold, then I can begin on the path of peace. Then I can begin to be at peace with myself, again, by God's grace, because humanly speaking, these things are so difficult to attain. It's purely God's grace, I would suggest. And that in that letting go, in the peace that I'm able to begin to journey towards, then I can be a bearer of that peace to others. And the amount of mercy that we measure out is the amount of mercy we receive. And if we reflect a little bit maybe on how much mercy we are in need of, and this is where I come back around to my age-old exhortation for confession and regular confession, that through that I understand how much I am in need of mercy, then I can begin on that path of sharing the very same magnanimity of mercy to others, even those who have hurt or offended me. Because it does no good. We know this from any experience. It does no good to hold on to hurts, to nurse the wounds, to have these regular pity parties and self-indulgent sort of periods of poor me and pity me and what about me. That's not a healthy path, because it's inward looking, it's inward turning. And by right I should be maybe sharing these with somebody I can trust, with the Lord certainly, and try to begin to let them go so that that cancer, that woundedness can find healing. So I would suggest, a pilgrimage to Knock on Sunday. If not this Sunday, find another Sunday or any day. These pilgrimages are very health-giving and life-giving, and we meet others who've been on the same path. I mean, if we bear those wounds and scars, there's no doubt that others bear similar trials and struggles and struggle. And in sharing that load with one another, it helps us to let go, be delivered of these things, to drop that baggage, and instead to help others to drop their baggage too. And you see, in dropping that baggage, then I like that image then, a soul in purgatory, which is going to carry that baggage with it. It's dropped, it's purified, it's let go, it's cleansed, and they're free. Then they can levitate, they can rise to full communion with the Lord again. So I like to think of it in those terms, by way of seeking out that path of forgiveness for ourselves and for others. And grandparents certainly, and their relationship with us, can teach us a great deal. My time has gone, I'm afraid. Just if I was hoping to be able to chat a little bit longer with Catherine, the connection wasn't going too well for us there, and I do hope she'll be back on with us again. But we'll join that certainly on Sunday and share it with you on Sunday afternoon here on Radio Maria. Now it's 12 o'clock. Let's pause for our Angelus and our midday prayer.